Tropical Storm Debby is getting stronger in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. Good Saturday evening, Mike Naso here with the latest on our tropical storm. We now have hurricane warnings along the Florida Big Bend area from Suwannee River to the Ocklawahnee River because it is expected that Debby will strike the state of Florida as a hurricane. Now here's the latest as of 11 p.m. Eastern Time. From the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, Tropical Storm Debby was at 24.4 north, 83.6 west, winds up to 45 miles per hour, so it's still a lower-end tropical storm, but it is organizing. The pressure's still in the 1,000 to 1,004 millibar range, somewhere in there, moving northwest at 14 miles per hour, and it should start to move more north and then eventually northeast as it finds this weakness in the high pressure off to the north as that troughiness on the eastern seaboard weakens the ridge and draws the system to the north. By Monday morning, it should be making landfall in the Big Bend of Florida as a hurricane. Right now, a forecast of an 85 mile per hour hurricane. That is a solid Category 1 storm, not too dissimilar from when Hurricane Beryl hit Texas. So that could be a potent Category 1 hurricane. And then a very slow motion here across North Florida and Georgia. Now, the reason for this is because it looks like that trough that's weakening the ridging, allowing Debby to pull to the north, is not going to kick it out all the way, and the steering currents are going to collapse. So that means Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Debby could be dragging itself from North Florida into South Carolina, and even though it won't be intense with winds, it could still be a tropical storm, and it could dump a lot of heavy, potentially flooding rains. There's the hurricane warning, as I mentioned, from Suwannee River to the Ocklawahnee River. It looks like landfall will be in that Big Bend area, so places like Keaton Beach, Perry, up there in Taylor County, you guys might be ground zero for the eye of what by that time should be a hurricane. Here's the latest radar from Mark Niesenbaum's weather radar page. Very good page, I recommend. There's the center of Debby organizing, still a minimal tropical storm, but we did have some good rain bands here right off the areas there of Key West near Dry Tortugas, and heavy rainfall as well moving over Key Largo and southeast Florida. Again, it's a very wet tropical atmosphere. As far as the water temperatures, that's no problem at all, very favorable. And the upper level winds, look at Debby is directly underneath an anticyclone, so that's very favorable ventilation. The problem is it doesn't really have a well-defined inner core, but if it gets one, it can strengthen at a quicker rate, which is why once it becomes a hurricane, it's probably going to be strengthening a little bit more briskly than we'd like by the time landfall occurs. But right now it looks like a Category 1 hurricane. You always want to be prepared maybe for one category higher, so can't rule out maybe a Category 2 up there in areas of the Big Bend. But again, this is not going to be as much a wind event as it is going to be a water event. Now, the reason for that, these are the GFS ensembles. Look at the way they just turn into a plate of spaghetti here by the Georgia and South Carolina coastlines. Some of them want to bring it back, take it out into the Atlantic, and then make landfall again. Now, that would be a whole nother situation we'd have to deal with, but the heavy rain would be the biggest threat even still. Here's the European ensembles. These are as of 18Z, and they show Debby moving a little bit more, but headed for the Carolinas, maybe even intensifying a bit here on the waters right near the Gulf Stream right there, and as it crosses, it could strengthen on its approach to North Carolina. You'd probably have two scenarios. Do you want it to stay weak, but just sit and spin and drench southeast Georgia and South Carolina? Or do you want it to maybe be a little stronger, maybe even a hurricane again, and slide across the Outer Banks, but get out of here? So it's kind of a lose-lose for somebody, but the bottom line is a lot of heavy rain and water. Speaking of water, we will have storm surge near and to the right of where the eye of the storm makes landfall. Again, Ocklawahnee River, if it made landfall up here, the right front quadrant, you'll have the onshore flow. You guys could see 6 to 10 feet of water rises up there north of the Suwannee River in the Big Bend, and that's with crashing waves on top of it. So it's going to be very, very dangerous with the water rises, and all the way down the Florida coast. 1 to 3 feet down here near Marco Island. That goes to 2 to 4 feet near Charlotte Harbor and Tampa Bay. 3 to 5, 7 to 4, 4 to 7, and then all the way up to 6 to 10 feet there in the Big Bend. So again, if the storm strengthens more than we think it will, you might see these totals increase. But right now, 6 to 10 feet of storm surge with waves on top with a landfalling Category 1 hurricane. That's not a pretty picture for the Big Bend of Florida. But I stress, the rainfall with Debby is going to be the main focus. Look at this. 8, 10, 12, 16 to 20 inches of rain on this forecast here from the Weather Prediction Center. And again, this would mostly be right offshore on the coast of South Carolina and Georgia. But again, everywhere from Tallahassee to Jacksonville, Augusta, Charlotte, Raleigh, Wilmington, Charleston, Savannah, you guys are all going to get drenched over the next 2-3 days, maybe longer. This is the 7-day outlook here, and look at this heavy, heavy rainfall predicted. And again, this might spread all the way up the eastern seaboard. We don't know yet. Is Debby going to get in and kind of meander and then head up like that? Is it going to just go straight up the eastern seaboard? The best case would be to get it up and out in the Atlantic to where if it meanders, it's offshore, and then it moves out to sea. That would be the best bet. But again, too early to tell. There's the radar, and again, right here, these showers and storms, not too bad, but in North Carolina, South Carolina, that's associated with that front. And that's the front that's going to continue to weaken the ridge, allowing Debby to pool in that direction. But as it drapes here, along with the tropical storm, that's going to exacerbate rainfall. You can see that even better on this infrared image. There's the trough right there, and there's Debby. And Debby's going to get pooled into Florida, and then instead of pooling out, the trough is going to leave her behind, and we're going to have a lot of flooding rain potential in that area there of the southeastern United States. I'm also watching this tropical wave we've been watching in the central Atlantic. Nothing there yet, but it is August. It is forecast to be a very busy hurricane season, and some of the computer models want to take this one towards the Caribbean and the Gulf in the long run. We'll also be watching off the coast of Africa to see if anything leaves there. But right now, in the next 2, 3, 4 days, the focus will be for Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, with heavy rainfall and damage potential from Debby forecast to strike Florida in the Big Bend area as a Category 1 hurricane on Monday. I'm Mike Naso with the latest on the tropics. Stay tuned, and I'll have more on Debby next time.